Baseball is very important in America. It shaped how we view sports today, and it gave people something to do back in the early 1900s. Although baseball isn't as big today as it was back then, historically speaking, it's still very important to look back and see how it was in the 1940s and what people did and how they played. For our project, we have baseball, and this baseball is very old, almost 100 years old. It is from the year 1947. So, why is this baseball important? Well, the baseball itself isn't really that important. It is just a relic from a junior high kid who played Little League before it was called Little League. The third ward beat the fourth ward, and that'd be the only time they would beat them over the history of the Ward League. And this being the first game of the season, that's probably why they kept the baseball, because it was important. Little did they know that many years later, someone would be picking it up, taking pictures of it, and doing a full class project on why it's so important to look at America's pastime. Because it's extremely important to view something as big as baseball. Even though it's less popular today, it doesn't seem. Back then, baseball was extremely popular. And we see in Indiana's paper, they would have 5 different leagues along with 3 softball leagues all at the same time. It's just hard to believe that so many people just in the Indiana area would be playing in all these different leagues. It definitely wasn't some small little game. We see some kids, you always think of them playing with a 2x4 and a rock, but these are actual leagues. The newspapers would print out the scores and batting averages of all the players, almost to what we see today that we get from the MLB. The fourth ward would eventually go on to win it all and have the most players in the All-Star game that would play against the YMCA boys. But next, I want to take a look at Glassworks Field, another important part of this project. An important place in Indiana. This is Indiana, a small town we see on a very old map. You can see by all the incredible little details and all the little street names how detailed this map really is. Even though it doesn't have the location of the baseball field on it, we can get a general location of it from using this map and other maps to get a general area. Where Glassworks Field was. Now, it's a very lucky guess. I guessed where it was and actually got it right on my first try. And luckily enough, it was on IUP's campus, which made it very easy to find and research. I found an old picture on Google Earth where it was actually up and running. The field was in service clear from the early 1900s up until 2003 to 2005. There's not an exact date to when the field was removed, but it was somewhere in that time frame. Now you can still see the outlines of the field, and to this day, the old scoreboard is still standing tall in the background. But why is this field important? Well, almost all the games from the newspapers were played on this field. When you look at all the different games that were going on at a night, most would say Glassworks Field. So at one point, this was a very important place in Indiana. It's where people gathered to play baseball. In the picture, that may not have been what it looked like in 1947, but it gives people a general idea of what the area would have looked like back then and would have given context to where the field was located. I think this was very important to include, as even though it may seem something like just a very simple baseball field that has not too much thought put into it, this is a place of gathering. And people gathered there for more than 100 years. About 104 to be exact. Until it was torn down when they rebuilt the Little League fields. And eventually grass was planted over it. And it was lost to time. Next, I want to talk about America's pastime.
And here we are now with the 1960 home run champion, Bill Mazeroski of the world champion Pittsburgh Pirates. Bill, nice to see you again, and good luck to you this year. Let me ask you, first of all, have you spoken to Ralph Terry since you hit that home run off him in the 60 series?
No, I haven't, Keith. I haven't seen him yet.
You haven't spoken to him at all?
No, I haven't seen him.
In what capacity do you think you'll help him this year?
Leo has done a great job this spring. He's worked with a lot of the younger fellows and us older fellows, too, and is noted.
Now, with the preview of the National League, we have with us the veteran of the St. Louis Cardinals and one of the great baseball players of all time, Stan the Man Musial. Stan, let's talk a bit about the Cardinals this year.
To me, I love baseball. I think there are a lot of people that enjoy it even more than I do. So for me, this project was very easy to do and to talk about how important it was to America. Because we see that baseball was still going on a couple years after World War II. People were probably trying to forget the war and just trying to move on. And seeing just simple baseball leagues pop up shows how important it was. Looking through all these old newspapers really gave me context, and it was cool seeing other things besides baseball in America's past. One of the articles regarding baseball was the fact that there were 2 baseball players killed in a game by a lightning strike. 2 separate lightning strikes. So that means they kept the game going after the first one. Another one struck and killed the second outfielder. This shows how far the games have come safety-wise. As even if there's too much rain now, we see games get postponed or canceled. People would come from all over to these games to watch or to play. It was very competitive nature. As one company will be facing off against another company in the mining league, and we see an all-black league that is very important because it gave a chance to people who otherwise would not get to play. There were also 2 softball leagues that were slow pitch and one that was fast pitch that my great-grandfather actually played in. And I found a stat sheet from all those years ago when he played in the late 1940s. Sports are ingrained in our culture. It makes it so important that we can see in the past because then we can see how it affected the future. In conclusion, I think that baseball was very important. Today, we see that many of these leagues no longer exist, as there is one baseball and one softball league. I think that overall phones and TVs, just other things to do, slowly killed these leagues, and we just seem like such a more busy society today.